everyone, welcome to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Marketing. I'm your host, Melissa Siudakis, and today we're here with Madison Spek. She's a licensed nutritionist and dietitian who helps women meet their goals with a holistic approach to diet and weight loss. Madison, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Like you said, I'm a registered dietitian. I specialize in women's weight loss with a unique approach that we'll talk about later a lot. And the cool thing is that I get to help women with this approach all over the world, quite literally, as far as Egypt and Australia, through my virtual 8-week program, Living Proof.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to learn more. So very cool. So where are you from originally?
So actually, I was born in Canada. Not a lot of people know that about me. I lived there till I was 3 and then came to the suburbs of Atlanta and have been there ever since.
Oh, that's really cool. And I did not know that either. So what are some of the things you were interested in when you were growing up?
Yeah, growing up, I was always interested in cooking, baking, anything hands-on. I think my parents always assumed that I would do something with food eventually. We even found a recent home video of my 3-year-old self playing with plastic foods and telling my little sister that she had to eat her fruits and vegetables before she could go and have the fake dessert or whatever we were doing. And I also have one huge baking fail moment that I wanted to share. When I was 7, this is exactly why 7-year-olds should not be baking alone. So when I was 7, I woke up early one morning wanting to surprise my parents with brownies, and everything went fine. I took them out of the oven. Everything was okay. I was safe. But when we went to go taste them, we noticed that instead of putting 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, I ended up putting 1/4 cup of salt.
Oh.
So huge baking fail. But haven't made the same mistake twice. So I guess you learn from every mistake.
Yeah, those probably didn't taste that good, huh?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You know, if you added some pepper, you could have balanced it out.
Sure. Yeah, a little savory, a little spicy.
So did you ever think that you would go to school for nutrition?
If you asked me that when I was younger, I would have said no. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I knew I wanted to help people in some way, and I really thought that it would be, becoming a doctor or nurse or physician assistant, something like that. And actually, even going into college, I thought the same thing as well. And I know we'll get to, maybe it's even like the next thing that we're talking about here is the moment that I knew I wanted to become a nutritionist. It was actually because of the fact that the courses required for dietetics and nutrition aligned with the courses I needed to be pre-med and to apply to med school. So it wasn't until then, and then once I was in the actual nutrition program, that's when I started thinking, maybe this is what I want to do. Maybe I want to help people with their nutrition and prevent disease instead of treating it as a physician would.
Okay, neat. Was there a particular moment that inspired you to become a nutritionist?
It was more so the fact that it was a selfish endeavor, to be completely honest, because at the time I was struggling a little bit with weight loss still and my relationship with food and everything. And so I thought, well, this is kind of, on topic with what I want to learn about personally. So maybe if I study this and then go to med school, I'll have some answers for myself. So that's kind of what inspired that, honestly.
Nice. So when you first started studying nutrition, was there anything in particular that was very surprising to you?
Absolutely. The most surprising and honestly slightly disappointing thing was that there isn't some big secret. I was going into these courses hoping, just waiting each semester to take a class that would finally unlock something that the experts knew that we didn't, where we think there's some barrier. But every semester, the one thing that was reinforced was that there's not a combination of supplements or shakes or any magical thing that can do the work for us. Every single person, or pretty much every single person, has a good idea of what they need to be doing to lose weight. Obviously, it's difficult to actually think about how to do that with their lifestyle and everything. But overall, yes, more fruits and vegetables. Yes, good bit of activity and rest. All of those things are so true. And there's not a big secret that we're hiding.
Okay. Well, that's good to know because I've been searching for that. So I'm glad you covered that. So what initially made you interested in learning more about healthy eating?
Yeah. I grew up as the kid who hated sports and loved TV. So after years of sitting on the couch and literally eating slices of bread as a snack on the couch, it's not surprising that I was a little bit bigger than my peers, even up until high school. And my dad always said growing up that kids grow up and out and up and out, and that by the time they turn 16, the kid pudge is usually gone. So that was kind of his excuse if my mom ever brought something up while I was growing up. But he meant no harm by saying this. But when I turned 16 and I was still bigger than everyone else, I started feeling like, okay, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe I need to start doing something about this. And that's when I signed up for personal training. And it was actually my trainer who gave me all my nutrition advice, which, by the way, to anyone who's a trainer and listening, I do have some advice for you. So my trainer had me on a 1,200 calorie diet. I didn't know any different. She had me eating over 150 grams of protein, which for my age, activity, and build, I absolutely did not need. And she would even pinch my skin on my forearm and tell me that protein is what's going to thin that skin out. Like before that, I never even thought of my forearms. Okay, thanks. Now I'm conscious of my forearms. I ended up losing the weight, and it was fine until it wasn't, right? My advice to any trainer giving nutrition advice, even though you're probably not supposed to technically, is to equally weigh in the mental and emotional well-being considerations of your client, and to take into consideration things like age. You don't need to be telling a 16-year-old who is still growing to be eating 1,200 calories a day, maybe not even 1,500 calories a day, especially if she's active. So, just take a more holistic approach, especially with younger clients who are, more impressionable.
Yeah, definitely. And how has your relationship with food evolved over the years?
So when I think about a relationship with food in any case, I like to think of it on a spectrum. So on one side, we have complete intuitive eating, 100% body acceptance, and that's great. And then on the other side, we also have complete structure, restriction, complete goal-based dieting with no thought to intuitive eating. And a lot of the times, nutrition professionals or other professionals will think of these two things as completely separate entities, when in reality, it's a sliding spectrum, and every single person, their ideal spot on that spectrum will be different. And so for me, my ideal spot really is somewhere right in the middle. But I did start on that extreme dieting side, like many people do when they're trying to first lose weight. And then they feel it's not so sustainable, right? And then they bounce back, maybe go to the intuitive eating side, or just say, forget it and eat whatever they want. But from extreme restriction often comes that binging. So I would honestly eat perfectly, whatever that means, all week, and then have some kind of cheat meal where this is embarrassing, but I would literally bring my favorite foods with me to a restaurant. So in addition to the restaurant meal, imagine someone bringing like Cheeto Puffs and like, I don't know, like some kind of cupcake or something with them to a restaurant. But this was my form of binging. And that's a problem with cheat days, right? We like sometimes in diet culture, you think, cheat days, it's okay, it's fine, it's healthy, but it's really damaging on mental health. And it's just covering up the fact that this is binge eating. So it was only after I went to school to become an RD that I actually noticed how messed up it was. And then eventually I transitioned into relying on tracking macros. To me, that felt safe. It felt like a good fallback. And honestly, for anyone who doesn't know, tracking macros means just tracking the grams of carbs, protein, and fats that you eat each day. But I honestly think that it's not bad. It's a great educational tool, but I don't think it's something you should be doing all the time. It's great to learn about the foods you're eating, to create awareness, but doing anything to completely replace those internal hunger fullness cues is never a good thing. So then by the time I was in my more senior years of dietetics, I was finally able to apply what I learned in school to create a way of eating and living that made me not think about food all day anymore, or not dodge social events due to food, et cetera, while still getting to reach my goals, or if I'm already at my goals during that time, just maintaining. So overall, it was so freeing, and this same method is what I use in Living Proof. It's what it's based on and how I help my clients do the same.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. No, that's really helpful too. And what would you say, when did you officially launch your coaching business?
Yeah, so I launched in early 2020, and it was kind of around COVID. So I was an Orange Theory coach, but then Orange Theory shut down,
Mm.
and I realized, I needed still to support myself during such a hectic time, and the demand was high. Everybody wanted virtual everything, and especially in the health and wellness space. So early 2020 was about when I started
Okay.
with the business. Yeah, not with dietetics.
And how did you help clients set healthy weight loss goals?
Okay, this one is great to talk about. So, a lot of times someone will come to me with, they want to lose 30 pounds, they want to lose 100 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever it might be. And they think that that's their goal. But once we do some digging, we find out that that's not really the overarching goal. It might be one of the objectives to get to what their overarching goal is. So, one strategy I like to use is to set the emotional and mental tone by keep asking why. So why 30 pounds? To feel better in cute clothes. Okay, why? I want to look good. Why? Because I'm happier when I look good and I feel good inside. And when I feel good, I'm happier, I'm more social, etc. So most practitioners suggest making one very specific goal in a very specific time frame, which of course I do as well when it comes to actual numbers or weight loss. But the difference is that this is more of, like I said, that one objective than that underlying goal. The bigger goal in this case would be to help this woman feel good inside so she can be happier, more social, live out her best life. And yes, I will like to say in a lot of cases, weight loss can help achieve this, but weight loss alone is, it's not necessarily going to get to that point. And also, I'd also like to note that weight loss is not needed to achieve that underlying goal of being happier, more social, confident, etc. So it really just depends on the person. But we'll talk about this later too, I think, if it comes up again. But
Okay. So what would you say is the most common food struggle that you see your clients dealing with?
consistently, it is binge eating for sure. So restricting, binging, that whole cycle. Many start my program coming from a place of chronic dieting. So they have a bunch of food rules, which lead them to that overwhelming restriction, confusion, and then, oh, screw it, throw in the towel, and then binging, and then, going back and forth between the extremes. And so my main focus for these women and everyone in the program is really giving them knowledge on nutrition, because that knowledge is power. And that's even more true in nutrition. Knowledge is power. And when they have this power, it helps control situations that sort of feel out of control, like binge eating.
Okay. So you offer an 8-week course called Living Proof. Can you describe a little bit about what your program is?
Yes, absolutely. It's an 8-week all-inclusive program that emphasizes not only fat loss, but a healthier relationship with food, which is pretty unique because a lot of times it's either one or the other, right? The entire intuitive eating or entirely like super strict dieting. So it's meant for a busy woman who knows dieting or excessive exercise isn't working for her, but also doesn't quite want to give up on health or weight loss or something like that. There are structured lessons, modules, weekly challenges, check-ins, unlimited access to me, guides, a whole bunch of stuff, and so much more.
For weight loss, would you say it's mostly diet, or is it a combination of diet and exercise?
Oh, I would say it's mostly nutrition. And that is because of the fact that I know it's possible to lose weight without exercising. But I think if you have no concept of your nutrition and you're still working out really hard, you won't necessarily lose weight. So I would say it's a little bit more nutrition than exercise.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. So what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about starting a weight loss or health journey?
Yes, I could not just pick one. So some common ones are that they have to be perfect, right? Or eat only clean ingredients. Oh my gosh, that drives me crazy. Even some other dietitians too. I call them like ingredient list purists, where they think you have to, be able to essentially grow each of the ingredients on an ingredients label, but that's not accessible to a lot of people. That's expensive. And it's not realistic. It's not practical. And it honestly, at the end of the day, does not make a huge difference. So eating only clean ingredients is a big one. Having off limit foods. If you love chicken Alfredo, go have some chicken Alfredo once in a while. We can fit that in. We can balance it in, whatever it is. And another one is spend lots of money on supplements and powders. You probably don't need them unless, you've talked with your doctor or a registered dietitian one-on-one. It's likely you don't need those. But the biggest one overall is that people think that they need to completely rehaul their life and change everything they're eating, get back on the wagon, go from being themselves to an entirely new person. And that is so not true and so not sustainable. And my 8-week program is really different from any other program because it's really where I come and meet you where you are, instead of it being the other way around and restructuring your whole life like, diet culture has made you to believe that you think you need to do.
So this brings me to another thought. Do you have an opinion on vegan versus gluten-free versus, paleo versus all these different types of what we can call them lifestyles, right? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so with everything in nutrition, you have to be looking at it through a specific lens because there's a time and place where certain diets are acceptable like that. For example, gluten-free. If you are celiac, if you are intolerant to gluten, those are great examples of why you should be gluten-free. But if you're not, and you're just going gluten-free because you think it's healthier, there have actually been studies showing that women are going on gluten-free diets because they think it's healthier, actually end up gaining a little bit of weight, honestly. And just because a product isn't or is labeled gluten-free does not make it healthier at all. It's basically instead of wheat, we're switching over to rice or something like that. But at the end of the day, grain for grain still has starches. And it just makes it harder to eat. So if you're not actually gluten-free for a medical reason, then there's no need to be. Vegan, that would be something you would do if you care a lot about, the animals and everything, but there definitely isn't one specific diet that you should be on in order to become healthier or anything like that. So it's mostly just on your medical history and then your personal beliefs and morals.
Okay. So why do you think it's important to focus on body confidence in addition to healthy eating?
Yeah. Honestly, you'll never be satisfied if you don't. That's a simple answer. You'll reach your goal, but you'll still want more or have some kind of negative, harmful self-talk. So remember that goal setting method that I used where I asked the woman who wanted to lose 30 pounds, why? Mm-hmm. Well, if she just lost those 30 pounds and we didn't address why, we didn't address the whole other side of things during the 8 weeks, she probably wouldn't feel satisfied even if she did lose those 30 pounds. Something would be missing. She'd assume it's just because she needs to lose more weight, or now she'd shift the focus from her stomach to her arms or whatever it is, when in reality, that's not it. Working on body confidence, body acceptance, mental, emotional well-being is just as important to feeling whole and complete and like you've reached your goal. And I think when we can focus on that, it shifts nutrition and diet from being this thing that takes up your mind 24/7 to just being this thing that you take care of yourself and you move on. And that frees up so much space to do your hobbies. I don't know, learn how to paint, learn how to play an instrument, actually do something with your time, which is amazing.
It gets me thinking. So I remember seeing something recently on TikTok, and this doctor, he basically is like throwing up these facts and myths, and he'll tell you like yes or no in his little TikTok or whatever. And he said something like, eating past 7 o'clock is bad for you. And he said that was a myth. So what's your opinion on, when you need to cut off eating at nighttime? Is there a cutoff? Does it matter? Can you eat at different times a day? Is it better to eat multiple meals as long as they're smaller meals and that you keep eating throughout the day so that your metabolism keeps going? Or adversely, there's this intermittent fasting that I know some people have done where they've lost a ton of weight doing it. But for me personally, that wouldn't work for me. I can't eat one big meal at 4 p.m. after not having had anything all day. I would just like fall over and I'd be useless.
Absolutely.
And what's your view on all of that?
Okay, so let's talk about the first one first, about eating after 7 p.m. So when you think, and with the perspective of weight loss, correct? That's really what we're looking at here. Okay. So when you're thinking about weight loss, at the end of the day, the one thing we 100% know for sure is that you need to be in a calorie deficit. So your body needs to be burning more energy than you're eating. whether you eat those calories at 7 p.m., 9 p.m., 1 p.m., like whatever time of day it is, it does not matter. And so, no, that is false. The only time I would think that the timing would matter would be if you're dealing with a patient who's, diabetic and on insulin or something like that. But for the average, like, healthy person, no, you can, if you're hungry, eat. Don't make yourself wait until the next morning. The next point was it the meal sizes? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Meal sizes, it's actually been proven that those small meals throughout the day, they don't increase your metabolism. In fact, they can lead to grazing, which then leads to actually consuming more calories than if you were to just sit down and eat your 3 normal size meals. Plus, you'll be thinking about food all day because you'll never actually reach that point of satisfaction. You'll sort of almost get there and then and make yourself stop eating again, almost get there. Pattern would continue. So that's what I would say on sizing of meal, and then frequency of meal with intermittent fasting.
Yes.
With intermittent fasting, there is limited research on the health benefits of it, but as far as weight loss goes, like you said, it works for some people and it doesn't. But the only reason that it would be working for some people is because then in that overall day, they're consuming less calories than their body burns. And if this isn't going to work for you, then you can do literally any other method to get that calorie deficit. And honestly, when I think about intermittent fasting, I kind of feel like it's just a different way to market skipping meals, to be very honest with you. So no, all of those things are not true that we just discussed.
Is it bad to skip breakfast?
Nope. Studies show that if you're not hungry, then don't eat until you're hungry. And if you are hungry for breakfast, that's fine too. I think there's a lot of overcomplication because we want to find an answer. We want to find a key, like I was saying earlier. But in reality, it's much more simple than that. And that's really what I like to talk about in my TikToks a lot too, is just 3 quick facts that give it to you straight.
Nice. What inspired you to start posting nutritional facts on TikTok?
Yeah, I started on Instagram, but honestly, I'm not much of I would rather just record a video and like I said, tell it to you straight than going and making pretty pictures and whatever it may be. So I think TikTok was a better platform for that. And also TikTok had an amazing algorithm, so then I could help more people at once. Right. And that combined with the free time I had from COVID was really the perfect recipe for spending hours a day on that app.
I know, I could say addicting, doesn't it?
It is.
So what are some of the worst diet trends that you've seen on social media?
A couple of them that I've seen, and I guess they're not harmful for you as long as you're not, replacing anything else with them. But chlorophyll water is a big one. I don't understand the obsession. I don't get it. Chlorophyll exists in green leafy vegetables. The literal green color is what chlorophyll is. And so you can get chlorophyll just from eating spinach, which honestly, a salad or even just topping spinach in your meals probably tastes a lot better than drinking water with drips of chlorophyll in it. So I don't understand that one. There's no harm to drinking chlorophyll water that we know of. So I guess it's fine to do, but I just don't think that it makes much sense. I think you're better off eating vegetables. And then Nature's cereal. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but I think it was the mixture of ice, fruit, and coconut water, I want to say. I could be messing that up. It's something along the lines of that, but that is supposed to be a meal replacer, which absolutely is not. That is, the ice in the water is practically nothing. Right. And the fruit is some sugar or some carbs, which great, have sugar and carbs, but not as the only part of your meal. Where's the protein? Where's the healthy fat? Where's, the rest of the fiber and everything? So those are some of the funky ones I've seen recently.
Nice. Those are pretty weird. I'm not down with the chlorophyll water.
Have you heard of any that I'm not thinking of?
There's been a lot. I'm just trying to think over time. There's a lot of weird diet trends out there. And I feel like people will try anything to lose weight. If they think it's going to work, they will try it. Yeah. But I mean, for me, the weird one was the intermittent fasting, because The people who I spoke to who were doing that, they said they would just have like a cup of coffee in the morning. They would eat a big meal like around dinner time, and then they wouldn't eat the rest of the night. So there's no snacking, there's no other meals, and they're almost like binging on that one meal that they are getting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's definitely a caloric deficit because you're not going to eat 4,000 calories in that one meal, but you're probably going to eat just what you needed to get through the day. And then it's like you're depriving yourself of the rest of the nutrition throughout the day. So for me personally, that wouldn't work. I need energy. I need some sort of like carb or something. I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't really do caffeine. Right. So there's been caffeine diets where I think it's the ephedra part of the caffeine is supposed to help you lose weight because you're living off of like coffee and some chocolate or whatever it is, however you get your caffeine. But,
right.
I think a lot of these weird diet fads that's all they are. They're just fads and they come and go.
Like you said, people will do anything, literally anything. And imagine the toll on the mental health, after. I know a lot of people do intuitive eating and, maybe it's fine for them, but I'm sure for a lot of people that does take its toll, especially years after, when they're trying to get back to eating normally. What happens then? What does that look like? So yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. And sometimes if I eat a big lunch or the lunch was later than I like, then come dinner time, I might not be hungry for dinner. So then if I get hungry after dinner, I know I'm not going to eat a dinner later. So what I like to do is like figure out some type of snack I can have that's not too heavy before bedtime, but will fulfill my hunger needs, because the last thing I want to do is go to bed and my stomach starts growling. That makes me crazy.
Or waking up in the middle of the night from being hungry. I've definitely heard of that too.
Yeah, it's not fun. And then the first thing in the morning, you're starving because you kind of skipped dinner. So, and then the other thing too, what's your opinion on red meat? Like how much red meat is okay? And is it bad if you eat it several times a week? And what is so bad about it? What do you know about that?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of conflicting research on red meat. What we studied in school in dietetics is that red meat's completely okay, 1 to 2 times a week, given a reasonable portion size. And the reason that people say, stay away from red meat is often because of the saturated fat. But we're learning more and more that saturated fat isn't necessarily the worst thing. When it comes to, it actually depends more so on the size of the actual lipid, the lipoprotein. But that's getting way into things. So I would say, honestly, 1 to 2 times a week, just keep it in moderation, whatever you do, because we're going to keep coming out with research that says, yes, this, and then, a few years later, oh, wait, no, we messed something up back there. So everything in moderation, just live your life. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because I remember hearing the studies about, wine is bad for you. And I actually don't drink wine, and I never have, but I've heard, wine's bad for you. And then it was actually, no, now a glass of red wine a day is actually good for your heart. And then people are like, yeah, now I could drink. And the FDA and everybody said it's great. So, there's a lot of that happens. And it happens too with pharmaceuticals, right? They're like, take this for whatever's wrong with you. And then they're like, if you took this last year, your arms might fall off. So,
Exactly. So that's why I love saying if you really love it, anything in moderation.
Yeah, definitely. I always kind of wondered about the red meat thing, because like my husband and I will do filet mignons like twice a week. And then we're like, is this bad? Is this really, are we clogging our arteries? Like,
especially if it's a serving size that's reasonable and you're not eating a whole pound of meat on your own, then that, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm talking about like I do a 6-ounce fillet maybe twice a week, and he'll do the 8-ounce fillet because he's bigger than me,
Yeah, especially if you don't have any other like medical conditions that would contradict that, then it's totally fine.
Yeah, like do that with a vegetable and then some sort of like carb or starch, like mashed potato or something, but like not eating a ton of it, so just, a little bit.
Yeah.
Or a couple like roasted potatoes or something. Cause like you still need, to your point about the macros, you still need some carbs mixed in with your proteins, right? And what was the third one?
The fats.
And the fats. Thank you. So you still need that, right?
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
and I also feel like your body tells you when it needs something, right?
Yeah.
So, like if I'm craving something sweet, I might have to have something sweet. But I feel like for whatever reason, I need that sweetness. If I'm craving carbs, I might reach for a piece of bread, but I feel like my body's telling me that for a reason. Maybe I don't have enough whatever it is in my system,
Yeah.
carb or maybe I just need something sugary, and I don't know. It's just I feel like your body tells you,
Something
right?
interesting with cravings like that. Of course, yes, if you're craving something specific, just go eat it, get it over with, stop thinking about it. But actually, cravings can get worse if you have an uncontrolled blood sugar. So if your blood sugar is constantly spiking up super high and then dipping down really low, that could lead to cravings, night snacking, etc. later throughout the day. So the reason that your blood sugar would spike is if you eat a meal that's primarily carbs with not really any protein, fiber, or healthy fat. And then the reason that it would dip is, right after that big spike, you have a lot of insulin that comes out to tell that blood sugar to go down. So then maybe too much can come out, leading that to a blood sugar dip. And then again, if you're like not eating throughout the day for an extremely long period of time, like let's say you wake up, you have a bite of something, and then you go several hours without eating again, that could also lead to that blood sugar dip.
Yeah. Definitely something I was thinking of too, like when you said that, like having a big plate of spaghetti and no proteins or anything like that. I know when I was a kid, my mom would have like one night of the week where she'd make spaghetti with sauce, or like she might do meat sauce. Um, but as time has gone on, and as an adult, you cook for yourself. Like I don't have nights where all we have is spaghetti.
Mhm.
If we do, I try to do like the chickpea pasta.
Yes, I was just about to mention that. I love that.
Yeah, chickpea pasta is great, or you can even do like a lentil pasta. It's healthier. And then like have that as like maybe part of like your side. Don't make it like the whole main dish. And then I'm actually a big fan of bison. So we'll do like chickpea pasta with bison, like ground bison.
Yeah.
And we mix it with like stir fry vegetables and extra virgin olive oil. And we do like jalapenos and onions, garlic, bell peppers, carrots. And that's kind of like our signature dish that we
I
like to make.
love that. Yeah, that's great.
But I don't know. It tastes really good and it fills you up. But after you eat it, you don't have that like bloated feeling that you're like, oh, I need to lay down. I ate so much food. It's more like I feel good. I feel like I ate enough food and I don't feel like I'm going to explode.
Exactly. And actually that's really what the PHFF method is. So like you mentioned, you have that protein, which was the bison, a healthy fat, so the oil that you're cooking in, maybe some of the fat from the bison, and then fiber. So PHFF, protein, healthy fat, fiber. And that fiber would be coming from the vegetables. And actually that's the perfect method to build your plate in order to get that feeling, like you just said, of like, okay, I'm full. This feels good. I don't feel like I need to go take 3 hour long nap after this meal. And that's actually what's going to sustain your blood sugar and keep it pretty steady rather than spiking up super high or dipping down low.
Yeah, that's good to know. So, what advice would you give someone who is starting to think about losing weight, but they don't really know where to start?
Yeah. So a big conceptual idea first to get down is baby steps. You did not gain that weight overnight, and you are not going to lose it overnight either. So if it took you well, I don't want to say if it took you 3 months to put on the weight, it'll take you 3 months to lose it. That's not true. But you understand the point. You're not going to gain weight extremely quickly, and you're not going to lose it extremely quickly either. And then the second thing would be 4 letters, like we just talked about, the PHFF. Do a quick Google search on some examples of protein, healthy fat, and fiber, and then play around with it. Try to get a good combination of each of these in each of your meals. And another thing would be too is to know how much to eat. Start trying to be more in tune with your body. And I know that's difficult if you haven't been there recently. very, very mindful about that recently. So what I like to think of is try to make your meals big enough to where they keep you full for 3 to 4 hours, to where you can go do something else. You don't have to bring a snack with you. You don't have to worry about it or think about it. And then, let's say the meal didn't keep you full that long. Now you know for next time what portion size might be a little bit better for you. And then the next meal you try again. All right, let me try for 3, 4, 5 hours without it. And I don't want you to ever be hungry, right? So we're adjusting that constantly. But that really is key to figuring out, what's best for your body without overdoing it, without underdoing it. And that's something that I also teach in Living Proof.
Oh, that's awesome. It made me think of something else too. It's like, some people, when they put food on their plate, like they'll keep eating even past the point where they know they're full just because the food's on their plate and they don't want to waste it. But I think, like, for me personally, like when I'm eating, once I hit that point of, oh, I'm full, whatever's left on my plate, it's on my plate. I don't feel the need to finish all of it. If anything, I'd rather just wrap it up and have it for lunch tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think that's something where maybe it's either, is it a willpower thing, or is it just like I grew up not wanting to waste anything on my plate because, your parents would yell at you, like you have to finish everything on your plate. But in essence, isn't what you say the healthier thing to do is eat until you're full, and then whatever's left over, just wrap it up and save it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a like tactic, I guess you could use to try to think about this differently. It's hard for a lot of people just to, be sitting in front of a plate of food, like, okay, yeah, I'm full, but I could still eat a little bit more without feeling too full. So like, really, what is full? Where is that line? And so something I like to do as an exercise is, if you have a big plate of food in front of you and you're halfway done eating, you think you might be full soon, try to like section off what you think you might need in order to get to that point of fullness. And then as you're eating that, before you take the last bite of that sectioned off portion, decide if that's going to be your last bite or not. And actually recognizing that, okay, this is my last bite, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to savor it. That can help you from just feeling like you need to clean the entire plate in order to reach the conclusion of your meal or the end of your meal. Yeah,
that's definitely a great advice. So what are some of the future plans for your coaching business? What's on the horizon?
So I've had some requests from Living Proof members to make like a 2.0 version because they loved it. So they wanted something past that 8 weeks. So that is definitely in the works. I don't have more details on that yet, but it's soon to be coming.
That's awesome. So how can people find you on TikTok and learn more about your services?
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram or my TikTok. The username is the same. It's at MSPEK Nutrition. So at Spek Nutrition on both of those. And then you can click the link in the bio, and that'll take you right to Living Proof where you can learn more about it. And I also have a Facebook page, Madison Spek Nutrition, with the link there as well.
Awesome. Well, Madison, it was so nice meeting you and great having you on the show. I feel like I learned so much, and I love how you're helping people lose weight and build their confidence. So that's really cool. So I'll be looking out for your 2.0.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really did enjoy it. It was great to meet you.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of A Breath Fresh Marketing, and be well.